Welcome back to the RC Wrench Bench. Today we're doing a race update, a first race update with the new short course truck from Team Associated, the RC10SC7. So I've done a series on putting the SC7 together, and I've been able to get it out on the track a couple of times now. And it was really useful to be able to go to two separate tracks with very different characteristics, both carpet, both high grip. One of them kind of on the smaller side, I'd probably call it small, maybe medium, and the other quite large. And you know, the SC7 handled both of those situations really well. Some things better than others. So we're just going to go through the kit and my observations of how it went on the track for the shakedown run, the adjustments that I've done to tuning to try to bring it up to snuff a little bit, and then what we plan on doing next. Before we move on to the actual kit, I'd want to say that the body, this is the J Concepts Chevy Silverado body. I forget exactly what it's called, but this body held up great. We all know that short course trucks take a beating on the track. Every single thing that happens ends up banging the body. This held up really well. And I had one kind of big impact at practice on the front, and some of the paint got chipped, but the actual body itself held up really well. The other thing that I would note is that at the larger track that I was at, there were two fairly large jumps, and this thing did not parachute at all. So you'll see I did cut out a very large section of the body in the back, as well as put in several holes, and also the holes that are here along the cowling in the front. So I'm sure that definitely had an impact on that lack of parachuting, but the body handled that situation really well. I've had a couple of Proline bodies, and they just don't seem to be as durable as the J Concepts bodies when it comes to short course. So super impressed with the body and the performance there. And, you know, I had this on my 6.2 and kind of redid the body mount holes to make it work on the SC7, and it was great. No problems at all. The tires were not rubbing at all on the inside of the body, or at least not enough to hamper performance. So I think this body would work really well for an SC7. I know there are other racier themed bodies that performance-wise might have some benefit, but I just like the looks of that one. All right, so as far as the actual kit goes, on the smaller high grip carpet track, it was a technical layout. There were not any really large jumps, and this thing absolutely shined on that layout. It was the very first run, and I was second only to a really well-tuned kind of custom short course truck rig, and I was super close, and that was with very little tuning on this. So I was really happy with that. Running the fuzz bites in the front and the swaggers, the fuzz bites in the rear and the swaggers in the front, and glued sidewalls in the front. Aside from the kit setup, I've just lowered the ride height a lot. I got this thing down to 15 millimeters front and rear, so it is level in that way. And if you watch the build series, I do have a couple of R1 Works aluminum upgrades on there. So that would be the servo mount, as well as the steering plate and the servo horns. Other than that, no major additions. The kit, I believe, came with 30 weight front and rear, and I did 35 front and 30 rear. I didn't really do much adjustment on that the first run out. The second run out, which was a much larger track, with there was a couple of technical sections to it. The thing where the SC7 did not perform especially well was on higher speed sweepers and higher speed corners. That this thing has way too much chassis roll. So I did what I could with the parts that I had available with me right at the race. So I went to 40 weight front and 37.5 rear. I again changed that to 40 front and 40 rear. So right now this is 40 front and back. I wished that I had thicker anti-roll bars, anti-sway bars. The kit ones just do not provide enough. I think the front is 1.4 and the rear 1.2. I did pick up the kits, the T7 and SC7 kits, both front and rear for the anti-roll bars, and I was a little bit disappointed because the front, I can't remember if it was the front or the rear, I probably should have researched that before recording this. One of them is no thicker than what comes in the kit, so it's kind of a waste of money unless you want the smaller anti-roll bars. And the other one allows you to go up just a couple. I think it was the rear allows you to go there. 1.4 was included in the kit, excuse me, in the aftermarket anti-roll bars. That one allowed you to go up to a 1.4 from a 1.2, I think. Don't hold me to it. And I think the front was no different. And so this thing definitely needs beefed up anti-roll bars if you are running on a larger, higher speed course with high speed sweepers, because this thing was just leaning over. I don't know how many times I got it up on 2 wheels and saved it. So I never absolutely rolled it, but there were many times I was up on 2 wheels and doing the bicycle thing for a little while. And the other short course trucks that were out there that were just much flatter were pulling away. I think if I had been able to keep this thing really flat, it absolutely would have been in the mix. I ended up finishing 4th, I think, 4th in the A main. There was only one group. I think there was seven of us, and I finished 4th. So yes, definitely needs larger anti-roll bars, front and rear. And I took a risk. I think that some folks on the previous generation were using the B84 anti-roll bars and maybe with some slight modification making them work. So I bought those and I was able to make those work in the front. So the angle of the where the anti-roll bar connects to the arm, the angle of that is not quite perfect. It's at a little bit of a not quite straight there. So I don't know how that's going to perform, you know, whether or not these things pop off, but we're just going to go for it and see what happens. That allowed me to go up to a 1.7, I think I have on it right now. So I think that will make a really substantial difference. The rears, I could not make the B84s work. They're the right width, but they are too short. And so it doesn't line up well with where you mount to the arm, and that just wouldn't work out. So I've heard that the Techno EB10, I don't know their naming numbers, but anyway, one of the Techno kits I've heard may work. So I bought a set of those. I haven't received them yet, so we'll see. So as of right now, I've got a 1.4 in the rear and a 1.7 in the front. I'm sure that will be an increase in performance. The other thing is that this thing has tons of droop. And so I'm going to go to some internal limiters on the shocks. I'll probably do at least 3 or 4 millimeters. I've heard of people going up to 5 millimeters. It seems a little extreme. So we're going to start with 3 or 4 and just see how it works. I won't be going back to that larger track for probably 3 more weeks. They'll have a different layout by then, but it is that larger track that will probably have some higher speed corners. So I think that will be a step in the right direction. Overall, I can't believe how solid the performance on this truck is with very little adjustment. We're talking about adjusting shocks, adjusting anti-roll bars, adjusting ride height, and having this thing be super competitive right out of the box. No major modifications necessary. What else did I want to mention? Oh, the slipper. I needed to adjust the slipper because I hadn't really run the thing very much. And having this, having the adjusting nut for the slipper right up against the fan, no matter what you're doing, it is a pain in the butt. So you either take the fan off and then use a regular nut driver, or, you know, I bought a small wrench, you know, one of these MIP 5.5s, and even using a little wrench in there, it's just still super tight. So that's, I don't know why they do it that way. There's probably some reason, and I just don't know it, but that is a pain in the butt. If you want to, eventually you're just going to get that set where you want it and leave it alone. But when you are actually adjusting it, it is it is a pain. All right, so the only other thing that we'll be doing moving forward, again, we'll be putting some limiters inside the shocks to limit some of that droop. We're gonna see what we can do for maybe a beefier anti-roll bar in the rear. The B84 anti-roll bars will work in the front with a little bit of modification. You just gotta snip them right at the last angle in order to make them work. And I do have the R1 Works camber mount or block or whatever the heck they call this thing. So I'll be installing that here. I'll do a separate video on that. So that's going to be it for now. Again, I'm just super impressed with how this thing runs. Electronics wise, this servo has been fantastic. That is a ProTech 575. Speed control's been absolutely fine. And the Exalt Phoenix 13.5 motor performed absolutely flawlessly. This thing was never hurting for power or speed. The only thing that was really slowing me down was just that excessive body roll. All right, so there we go. First race report on the associated RC10SC7. I love short course truck. It's so much fun, and I've been really impressed with this kit particularly, and how it's running. So we will probably do an update video next time we get some race results. I go to a smaller track that's nearby regularly, and that is a small track. It's kind of worn out carpet. It's low grip. So that one I don't think is the best measure of the ultimate performance of this. So next time we get out on a bigger track, then we'll be sure to do another race report. So if you haven't, go ahead and tune in to my build series videos on the SC7. Like the channel if you like the channel. Subscribe if you like the channel. Leave some comments or questions or suggestions. If you're working on an SC7 and you've been able to reduce some of that chassis roll, then let me know what strategies you've been using for that. I'm always happy to hear from my racing colleagues. Until then, get out there and happy racing to you.